Hello and welcome to the, what is it now? Fourth episode of the Rebel Witch Show. I have a very special guest today. This is Jackie Lemus. Lemus. Yeah, Jackie here. How the heck do I say? I'm like, this is I've known you for literal years. Jackie is a nutrition and mindset coach, and I'm so excited to dive into this topic because for me personally, this is one of the biggest opportunities in my life. I feel like it's something that feels, overwhelming at times, the thing I want to, put to the back burner. So I'm excited to see how we're going to rebel with Jackie today. So hi, Jackie. Thanks for being here.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me.
And tell us, what are you rebelling against?
I came in here because I'm just rebelling against so many things, but mainly just rebelling against the health and fitness industry of the idea of
Mm.
wanting to be in a smaller or fitting into like a smaller size. Like the idea that you have to become a smaller version of yourself in order to feel like you deserve to be in your body, in order to feel like confident or feel like, your body is worthy because it is at a smaller size. That's really what I've been rebelling against and wanting for more women to embrace their bodies, embrace where they're at, and also just embrace like wanting to feel good in your body instead of like restricting, sacrificing, and doing all these things that just don't make you feel good in your body. And let's do it in a way where it's all good, like you're all just embracing the body that you're in.
Yes, it's so important. I was actually thinking of you the other day and the work you do because it's really important work. I love your messaging around. I love that you recently launched the Thick Baddies Circle, which I'm really excited to ask you about in a little bit. But I thought of you the other day because I'm working on a hypnosis practitioner certification, and one of the lessons was talking about how like willpower versus really genuinely changing our mindset and how important like on our nutrition or our fitness journeys, our health journeys in any aspect, physical, emotional, spiritual, like willpower is like a sprint. It can only get us so far. So, what you mentioned about like restriction and, not allowing ourselves to enjoy certain things, like willpower is not forever, and it's a good trait to have a certain level of willpower, but it's like how do we organize our lives in a way where we can feel our best and be our best and enjoy freaking life and not always be thinking about balancing my calories, or if I have this then I can't have that. And that's like we want to get in the marathon mindset. So how do I make
Mm-hmm.
this doable for the long run? And I love that so much. That was a big aha, like, oh, willpower is a sprint. it's not
Yeah.
it's not gonna create the lifetime changes that we desire. So I'm curious, like, tell us a little bit about your story. I've followed you for a long time, so I know, but I'd love to kind of hear like your origin story. How did you get into nutrition and mindset? Like, tell us about Jackie, day one.
Day one. Well, me just started. Well, I'm gonna start kind of like in the middle of my life because that's when I really
Hmm.
truly kind of started getting into health and fitness. And for me, when I say in the middle of my life, when I was in college, I really didn't like prioritize my health and wellness. I wasn't really just like either moving my body. It was more of just like you're in college, so you kind of like go all out with like eating the foods that you want to eat and like trying to nourish yourself, and your late night snacking or your studying snacking and all of that.
Hmm.
And that's how my life was. It was just about, okay, let me just eat something because I just need to eat something. And I never really got into nutrition and how to eat better. But it was towards the end of my college year, so basically my senior year, where I was just like, I am not feeling good in my body. I feel really and at the time I didn't know it was this, but I felt really insecure. And at that moment, it was kind of
Mhm.
like more of a, like, I just want to change my body because I just don't like how it looks. It's what it was.
Yeah.
And so I really started going into, okay, like just doing the cardio, starting to do the cardio sessions. At that point, I started buying like meal plans just because I wanted just somebody to tell me what to eat. Like I just need somebody to tell me what to eat so I can lose weight. And then I started doing a lot of like the HIIT workouts too that were so intense.
Mhm.
It was like 45 minutes of like these beach body workouts. And it was just like doing it. I was only doing it for so long, or I was being very consistent for a few weeks with both of those things, with the meal plan and the workouts. But then it was just like, I don't want to keep doing this. And it was just like the idea of doing another hard workout that just left me drained. It was just not something I wanted to do. So I would just fall off. So by senior year and like going into kind of like graduating and going into the workspace, it was always just like a inconsistent cycling of like, I'm good for a few weeks, and then I'm back into my habits. I'm good and good. And so
Mhm.
it's been a journey. And for me, it has just been a really big journey of like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like getting done. I was like being done with that kind of cycling. And it was just done with feeling like I needed to work so hard and restrict myself and only eat certain foods. And I was starting to feel like, why can't I eat more? Like, why can't I eat outside of this? And scared to, if I eat more, then I would just gain everything back. Um, and so it was first starting to learn more about nutrition. It was like now it was a basically like a few years later after that, it was like, okay, let me learn the science of this. Like, let me go into this because my background is in science. I was an engineer, graduated as an engineer.
Yeah.
And so
Amazing.
whenever I look into these things, I'm like, okay, how do things work? Like, what is it that's something like, how do you put something together? Like with nutrition and science, like, all right, let me start learning the pieces of all of this. And so
Yeah.
as I learn more about nutrition and like learn more about how our bodies actually work, I really started to see like notice changes within my body of like, oh, like food is actually good. Like I can actually eat more. I can actually work out more. If I concentrate on lifting weights, if I concentrate on getting stronger, my body, it actually really likes this. It's responding really well to this. And I don't need to go into intense workouts. And once I started like knowing more about it, I started diving deeper, and that's where I started getting my own coach, where I got into my own nutrition coach, who showed me just way more and going more into the functional nutrition of like, it's not only just
Mhm.
what you eat, how is your body responding, your metabolism, your thyroid function, your adrenals. And it would just open my eyes even more. And I was like, holy crap, like, why don't people know more about this? Why?
Yeah.
Why are we just concentrating on just working out and eating like just as
Yeah.
low calories as possible? And so because of all of that, and because of what I was learning, and just the way that I wanted to really teach other women too, of being like, hey, you don't have to be cycling in and out of workouts or restricting yourself. Like, there's another way to do this. Like, you can actually eat more. And because I wanted to learn more and help more women, I got my own certification. And then from there on, that path where it was just like, okay, I got my certification, you came along. And that's when we both started working about like, okay, well, what's really like my purpose too, of like, what do I really
Mhm.
want to do in life? Because I knew that I was meant for more. Like, I had been in construction at that point for like 6, 7 years now. And at that point, I didn't feel like wanting to be part of the construction business anymore, or like just being like
Yeah.
there anymore. And it was really tough to figure out like, okay, if I don't want to do this, then what else can I do? And so that's when I started like heavily leaning into, well, I can learn more about this. I actually really am passionate. I really love the science of
Mhm.
this. There's so much more that I can do and help people, because that's always been something that I really enjoy. It's just like, how do I help more people? And because of that, like, I decided to get the certification, start my business. And I think it was just last year. It'll be in a few weeks, 1 year, since I was let go from my job and
I
started my
remember that.
Hella Gay. Yeah, I started Hello Things
Yeah.
coaching, and this is where we end up right now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, we've been in each other's world for a long time now. We've seen each other through all these different like phases in life. It's so cool. And I I love what you mentioned about purpose because, that's what I teach is like a big part of our purpose is to take our life experiences and be like, I'm an expert on this, like you're an expert on knowing what it feels like to be stuck in these unsustainable cycles, feeling, a guilt, feeling a scarcity mindset around these things. And then you're an expert on
Hmm.
that journey of moving into a place where, you know, it's probably never perfect. I'm a mindset coach. My mindset's not perfect. I'm sure you still have your
Yeah.
moments too in this
Yeah.
journey, but like
Hmm.
you're an expert at that transformation. And then the other part of our purpose is like, well, how can I use this to serve the world, and serve others?
Hmm.
So it's so cool to, have been a part of your journey and just to see. And I remember when you messaged me, you're like, oh, I was laid off. I'm kind of freaking out. And I was literally like, like Jackie's
Yeah.
gonna go all in. Like the universe said, girl, you're ready. Like
Yeah.
push, like let's go.
Yeah.
And I was so excited for you. So yeah, oh my gosh, I'm sure there's people listening just kind of like nodding your head on your journey. I know like college is such a weird time. We're
Yes,
like
yes, it
still
is.
like kids but we're like adults all of a sudden, but you're also not
Yes.
because like college isn't quite the adult experience. This is very like unique bubble in time. But we're trying to figure it out. I mean, I remember I was so fortunate to grow up with a mom that was like very nutrition minded, knew a lot, taught me a lot. But then I felt like I was like kind of like forced to be really healthy growing up. So when I got to college, I was like balls to the wall, give me all the junk food, and
Yeah.
like I was such a like, and then I found my balance again after that. But like, yeah, you're like, I don't have to like let anyone know where I am. I'm not no like, mom or dad or my caretaker, like they're not making me dinner. Like it's just all up to
Yeah.
me and I don't really it's anything I want. Like it's sort of hard to wrap
It's
your head around.
it,
I'm like, well, I want nachos. I
yeah,
want pizza.
exactly. And I think that's what it was too. It was just that for me, it wasn't only just about like, okay, my mom's not making me food anymore. Like I have to go find it. But like it was also the food availability of like you just
Mm-hmm.
go to a club and they're like pizza nights here. There's
Yep.
Chinese food night this day. And it was always just so like something was always available for me. And I was just like, in my head, I was like, oh, this is free. Like they're just giving this to us. And so that's how I thought about
Yeah.
food, like at that moment of just like, well, this is fun because they're giving it to us. Of course I'm going to have some.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I just that's how it was for me during that time of just a free for all. It was just like I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy this. Um and yeah, just the idea of like not even just like the idea of being healthy or not. And that's when I started thinking about, oh, this is like me being healthy wasn't a thing at that moment. It was just like, oh, I'm just eating just to eat. And there was
Yeah,
no concept of
totally.
nutrition, no concept of health or wellness or anything like that.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. And like it was, enjoyment of your food is important, but I feel like when I got to college, that was like the sole thing I worried about. I was like, I just want something that's like delicious, and now I'm more mindful of like, oh, things can be nutritious and delicious, and I still
Yeah.
love my McDonald's once in a while and whenever. But it's like, oh, it's there's a balance to be had and like enjoying our food is really important. That's like such a peak human experience. It's delicious
Hmm.
food, but like there's a way to like encompass all of that in our life. But yeah, like when you're young and you're like, oh my god, the cafe, I'm picturing the cafeteria and it's like the sad salad bar, or
Yeah, nobody.
or
That's
a like
exactly it.
point at these like junk food type things. I'm like, well, obviously I want that, and I'll make a little tiny
Yeah,
salad on the side just to say I did it.
exactly it.
But I'm curious, like, if you can pinpoint, like, and maybe this is from your own experience or something that like a new client comes to you often with, but like, what is maybe the first simplest thing that helped you begin to shift into a healthier mindset and like habits around this? Like if there was, I guess, like one thing you would tell maybe a brand new client, or one thing you would tell your younger self at like sort of the lowest you felt in terms of your mindset around these things, like what would be your advice to somebody?
I think the one thing that I have been like telling clients, not only just clients, but like even in just on my stories and my page as well, is just like the idea of not just food balance, but like knowing having nutrition on a spectrum, like knowing that on one side
Mm,
there's going to be foods that are less nutritious, and there's foods that are going to be more nutritious, like they're going to have more
mm-hmm.
vitamins, minerals, all of that. And I think for my younger self at that point, I would really like talk about this idea of like up leveling your food. I feel like I created this idea, but it's probably like called something else. But up leveling your food of just like, if you're gonna have cereal, can we like balance that with like some macros of putting some either fruits like fiber, like strawberries
Mm,
or like raspberries or whatever, or and some protein powder in there, right? Just to make it a little bit more
yeah.
nutritious in that sense. And I think that's the one thing that I really try to advise any new people, like any new clients as well, just like how can we start up leveling the foods that you already have? Where can we add more veggies to things? Where can we add more fruits of something? How can we pack something a little bit more with protein in it? Because when we start telling ourselves like, oh, I can't have any carbs because this is just it's gonna make
Yeah.
me, it's gonna make me gain weight, or I can't have fat,
Mhm.
or I can't have this and this, or the only way to lose weight if I follow a specific diet. Like this is where we start restricting, and this is where we start like
Mhm.
creating those kind of little beliefs about around food and having this different type of relationship with food, when we can start
Yeah.
creating a healthy one of combining things. It's like we're not trying to take anything away or subtract, we're adding things to
Yeah.
what we're eating. And how can we bring more like of a comprehensive nutrition into our lives by adding more to that.
Yeah. That's such good advice because it's like I think that's where it can get overwhelming where I'm like, oh, I've been like really unhealthy. Like, where do I even begin? Like, I don't want to give up my favorite foods. I don't want to give up this. So then we just put it to the side. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I don't have the energy to figure out new recipes to make. I don't have
Yeah.
whatever it is. But it's like, well, what if I can like still eat all of my favorite foods, but just make an effort to like, yeah, like eat more vegetables along with it or add the fruit or the yogurt for protein or whatever
Yeah.
it is. So it's like, if you
Yeah.
love cereal for breakfast, fine, but like let's just like add a little something and that makes it feel so much more doable. I recently read this book called Biohacking Like a Woman, and I thought of you because so much of what she said is stuff you post about, just like what you mentioned, like up leveling the food. And so I've been doing that. She has like different levels. She's like beginner level, simplest, level one.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like eating a vegetable before every meal because it helps your glucose not spike. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And so like last night, I was like, I really want some like my favorite little treat is like chamomile tea with Oreos, and I like dunk the Oreos in the
Oh, yeah,
chamomile tea.
okay.
But
Yeah.
uh, but I was like, you know what? I'll just eat a carrot and like a little cheese before, so I've got a veggie and a little protein, and then I'm gonna have my Oreos. And like there, I didn't have to like give up my Oreos,
That's
but I
exactly
feel
it.
better
Yeah.
about eating them, and it's like it's helping my blood sugar, whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm obsessed with the mind, the subconscious mind, like, like brain hacking, if you will. And I'm like, oh, we can do the same thing for our physical bodies. This isn't hard. And it completely,
Yeah.
you have done that so much for me to just be like, oh, if I eat, I want to give Jackie credit for something life changing in my life, by the way. I eat breakfast now.
Oh, yeah.
And this has been a
Yes.
couple years now, but I used to never eat breakfast. I would wait until like 2 p.m. and I was like starving and cranky. And like, how interesting, I have anxiety when I haven't fed my body. But
How
Jackie,
interesting.
for a while was posting a lot about breakfast, and that's the reason I eat. And I eat a savory breakfast with lots of protein. And that's all thanks to our girl Jackie right here.
Yay, life changing.
Yes, it really is. I'm like, oh, I just needed to eat breakfast, and my whole day is different. Imagine that. That's so interesting. So, like, who would have thought? It's so funny, just some things that, like, you're like, oh, that's obvious that we learn from different coaches. For when somebody else said that, you're like, oh yeah, I should do that. My clients
Yes,
say that to me sometimes. They're like, oh,
exactly.
that's so obvious. Like, why didn't I think of that? And I feel like you've given me a lot of those moments over the years where I'm like, oh yeah, that would, oh.
I'm very happy about that. I really am. Um, yeah, even like you posting that biohacking thing, like that's something that I have like also been learning about too. There's somebody else that had posted about that, but it's an interesting concept of just like what you just said about even taking care of your blood sugar levels because also this is a very controversial topic in the space as well because there's some people who are like you shouldn't be tracking your blood sugar levels like it's like your blood sugar levels are always going to be spiking because you're always consuming
Yeah.
food that has sugar in it. Of course it's going to spike, but you don't want it to spike too high up like where it's just
Right.
causing those sugar crashes. And so what Sadie was talking about when she was eating veggies is like the order of how you eat your food can
Hmm.
like really prevent like those big sugar uptakes is or blood sugar uptakes is what it is. So eating your
Hmm.
veggies first is really good and then your protein and then your carbs because carbs are essentially all your sugar, your product, your glucose, where your energy is coming from. So if we use veggies first and then protein, that's going to actually be digested first and it's going to slow down the digestion of the carbs of the glucose as well. So that was just wanted to put that out there because you mentioned it and I
Yeah,
was like,
thank you for
yeah, I
explaining
love that
that.
topic.
it's it's so cool and it's so interesting. And in earlier you said, like, like, I just love understanding things, and I so relate to that. And I think, like, once we understand something, that also is such, for me, when it clicks, where I'm like, oh, that's why I do that, then I'm more likely to do it without resistance. Like, I always say, like,
Hmm.
if you
Yeah.
hand me a pill that's like a vitamin and you just say, you should take this, it's good for you, like, I might take it for 3 days and I'll forget about it. But if you're like, Sadie,
Yeah.
this is eternal youth, I'm gonna take it every day for the rest of my life, because
Exactly. Yeah.
I know what it is. When I use my actual vitamins I take, like, I'm like, oh, this helps my anxiety, I'll take it. But if you just hand me a random pill, if so I'm like, that's why I'm so passionate about. Let me explain to you, what meditation does for your brain. You teaching us, like, let me explain to you, like, what eating foods in different orders does for your body. And it's just like, oh, well, yeah, I want that, It's just,
Yeah.
of course I want to eat more vegetables, and that's what I get out of it. But if you don't
I
tell me,
think
I'm
that's
like,
why,
yeah, I feel fine without it.
yeah, I'm good.
I'm like, yeah, I'm
I
okay.
wanted to say that's why I feel like I connect with you so much. It's because of that. Because even in your programs too, with Activate Your Magic, you have so much science involved and like so much information behind all of that. And I'm just when I watch it, I'm
Hmm.
like, oh my goodness, there's actually science to this, and it's not like just what people say. It's like woo woo. It's like, oh, it's just magic and all of that. No, like it's not just
Yeah.
magic. Like the energy is still like energy. There's electrons. Like there's all this like shift and then like there's actually atoms around us that are causing all of this stuff, and it
Yeah.
is a science. It really is.
It is. It's so funny you say that, because I literally changed. I've been. I don't know. I'm always changing my Instagram bio, trying to figure out what hits. And I did. I changed it last night. I literally was like falling asleep, and I had an idea for a couple posts, and then I was like, I'm gonna change my bio, and I changed it to, like, science-backed magic that will change your life, because I'm so
Oh,
passionate. I'm like, I know, like, I'm a witch. I love talking about magic, but, like, I'm not just saying that word and it's cute and, like, oh, that'd be cool if it was real, or sometimes it happens to be real. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, it's our brains, it's our heart's electromagnetic energy, it's the atoms, it's all real. Like, and I love teaching that, and I love explaining, like, no, 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 magic is real. I'm always reading the studies, and so I'm like, oh, I want to do more posts about that. But um I love, that you relate to that, because, yeah, it's like, it's cool to believe in manifestation, but once you understand manifestation or magic, or however you want to word it, like, then you can you can work it in whatever way you want, a spell, a ritual, or whatever. It works because
Mm-hmm.
you understand the mechanics of it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
exactly.
make a witchy practice, you can just meditate in the morning and manifest intentionally, or you can just move throughout your day with a different mindset. And the same thing goes with our nutrition and fitness and all those things. It's all intertwined. I love it.
Yeah. And I think that it goes into also the mindset portion that I work with as well, of like
Mm-hmm.
you just saying all those things about like the basically the routines that you work on, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the witchy thing, witchy routines that you're placing, because when it comes to mindset, we do need routine. We do need to create like habits
Yeah,
that like make us like actually help us with the goals that we're trying to reach. Like when it comes to nutrition, like, you know, what are the habits that we're trying to learn or trying to create in order to like eat better, up level our foods, like actually like become like how we have to like change our identity of who we are as well, of
exactly.
thinking like we're not unhealthy to thinking like, oh, I am the person that eats healthier, I am the person that wants to see changes within like my health and fitness. Like you, it's like a reprogramming of your brain when it comes to like that side of nutrition and fitness.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, I've taught a lot about like, the discipline it takes to really like change your life in these ways. And a lot of people get the ick about that word, but recently, I think I mentioned this in a past episode too. Maybe it was last week's episode, but Manifestation Babe, Catherine Finkina, she did this post about, shifting the energy from discipline to devotion. And I loved that so much. And so I've really been mindful of like changing that in my own thoughts and when I speak and when I create of like it's yeah, it is technically like having a discipline to, change your life and change your habits in these ways, but
Mm,
like devotion, there's love in that and commitment. And it's like being devoted to, you know, your body, being devoted to your mindset, being devoted. And I'm like, oh, that energy shift like feels so beautiful and like it's so
mm-hmm.
opening. Of like discipline can have this restriction energy, but if I'm devoted, oh, that like that's a vibe. That's kind of sexy, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Actually really like that.
Yeah. So when it comes to mindset, what would be some of your biggest tips for somebody that is like, okay, yeah, I want to change my self-image around this. I feel like I'm just, this is a mindset that I've worked on where I'm just like, oh, I'm just not the kind of person that works out every day or like enjoys that. And I think one part of that for me is like growing up dancing, and there was always like when we grew up we're in sports, there's games to look forward to, dancing, there's recitals and competitions you're working towards, and when you're an adult you're like, I just have to do this for the sake of doing it, and it's not as fun to me. I'm like, I have a competitive spirit.
I need to win.
And so yeah, I'm like, I want this to like, for what am I doing this for? For why? Like going to dance class is great, but if it never leads to a performance, I'm still enjoying it. But like, there. So I guess, what would be, circling back to my original question? What are some of your biggest mindset tips for someone really trying to change their self-image? They're like, I want to be the kind of person who has a healthy breakfast and moves my body every day, but I'm struggling to get my energy behind that. Like, what would be some of your big mindset tips that you would share with us?
Um, I think I see that as two sides when it comes to trying
Mm-hmm.
to change and like thinking about like what changes you want to make within health and fitness and your nutrition. It really goes down to like, why do you want to do it? And in that, and then like understanding the whys and like each particular why that you have, because we have so many whys of why we want to change. This
Yeah.
goes out down into our motivators where we have different types. We have your extrinsic types where it's more of like you're being motivated by external factors as like, okay, is there a competition? Is there a competition? Is there money I'm going to get
Mm.
out of this? Is there somebody else
Mm-hmm.
that's working out and then because they're doing it, I want to do it too. Um,
Yeah.
and looking at all
Or
those
just like
factors.
society thinking, like what you said in the beginning, like
Yeah.
society telling me I should be smaller. Like that's an extrinsic motivator.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
bullshit.
It's like Exactly. That it's a bullshit one, but that is a motivator that gets
Hmm.
people wanting to make changes. And that's still a
Yeah.
change, right? Behavior change. And so what I really focus on with the people I work with is like, well, what are the intrinsic motivators that you have? What are the motivators that are very personal to you, that have more value than what people are, what you're seeing, what society is telling you, what other people, what money is going to help you do? And it's just kind of
Hmm.
connecting more with that why of like, okay, you want to make this change, and you want to fit in your jeans. Well, why do you want to fit in your jeans? So that you can look good. So why do you want to look good at that in that moment? Like what's going to make it seem
Mm.
like once your body changes, like what's going to come out of that? What feelings, what emotions? And then connecting to that, because even when you talk about affirmations and like the life that we want to live, it's the emotions that come
Hmm.
up. It's like the
Yeah.
what we see, what we want to see, and how do we connect to that in the future? And it's like helping people connect to the real why and the essence of that, and being able to
Hmm.
stick to that throughout this whole like period of wanting to change and wanting to make those health changes and nutrition changes as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're describing manifestation, like not it's taking on the self image of your, future self as you right now, and then it's like, how do I close the gap? How do I take the inspired action to
Mm-hmm.
close the gap between, my self image now and that person? Well, that person, she eats a healthy breakfast, but she doesn't restrict herself from her favorite foods. That person, she goes for a walk every single day and does, whatever, goes to the gym this many times a week. Oh, okay, so I can get into this mindset then. So I love that. I'm like, oh, Jackie's talking about manifesting. Manifest your, your best health. Manifest your
Yeah.
feeling good in your body. Like that's it. And I know something else that we've like kind of chatted about briefly before. I think you had some posts about this, and I was like, yes, like this is so important. I think when you're on a like either a fitness journey, a nutrition journey, a personal development journey, a spiritual journey, the sort of coexistence, and I would love to hear your take on this between like, you know, accepting and loving ourselves exactly as we are and desiring that change. Because I think that's a true abundance mindset of like, I can desire to fit in a smaller size dress or jeans. Like that's it's a perfectly fine desire to have, but how do we remove the maybe guilt or shame that can often be associated with those desires to, lose weight? Like how do you help people with mindset that are it's like it's okay to want that, but not if it associated with these like, these self-deprecating ideas. It's like how do I love myself in this body and maybe want a different body for myself? What would you I think that's a big thing that I don't do that with bodies, but with with mindset, with life. It's like how do we coexist and love and accept ourselves now and also want something different for ourselves? I'd love your take.
Yeah, I think this is one of the topics I really talk about the most too, because this is what my whole platform is all about. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like we have a side of social media where it's very on the extreme side of like, yes, you can love your body and you can be in a bigger body, and sometimes it's the idea of like you can't change that though, like you can only be there. But also when
Mm-hmm.
you're in a smaller body, it's like you can't change from here either. Like this is like ideal version, right? This is the beauty of it. And it's just like if you change, that's also bad. And it's just like, well, why can't we just
Mm-hmm.
be in the bodies that we really love, and like we love this body enough that we want to be able to provide it more nutrition and provide it more movement. And if the outcome, and I always think about weight loss as the outcome, it's never just like the
Mm-hmm.
goal, but it's just going to happen when we implement other things into our health and wellness
Yeah.
routines or strategies, right? um so for me, I agree. I support all the women that are just like, yeah, I'm in a bigger body, but I want to make some changes. And the way, I think this is how I started too with my own body, of like wanting to change and being so insecure and like feeling so disappointed when I wasn't like um at the body type that I wanted to be, at a smaller, like the smaller kind of shape that I wanted to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was always just like disappointing. I'm like, why am I not there? Why am I not there? And it was always like dragging myself down. And it's just like, why do I need to drag myself down to change my body for what? For how society wants me to like to see me and all of that, and like how I want to be seen because it's
Yeah.
going to make me more appealing or whatever. It's that idea of like you're just deprecating yourself just because you're just trying to change your body. It's like you can feel it in your body when you like talk badly about yourself. You can feel it. It's like I'm even going like this,
Yeah.
where it's like you want to
Yeah.
turn inside. We don't, and that's the thing. Like it's just like we're just talking shit about our bodies, and it's a continuous thing. If we want to change it, but you're talking shit about your body, like that's not a good feeling. But when we're talking about it
Yeah.
of being like, ooh, I love this. I love my curves. I love doing this. I love like, how, where I'm at with my shape, but I want to be able to, you know, be able to maybe change it a little bit where I can, my butt's a little bit perkier, or I have a little bit more
Yeah.
muscle on me. You can see a little bit of my hourglass waist. And it's like when we actually like talk positively about those changes, like
Mm.
you just feel better. And when when you don't see the changes that fast, or when you don't see the results that you want as fast as possible, then you're not feeling like shit about yourself. You're feeling like, oh, it's okay. I'm going to get there. It's okay because I'm feeling good right
Mm-hmm.
now and I'm still working towards it. And it's just a different kind of feeling and a different emotion when we're talking so positively, when we're working towards the body that we want from a positive side instead of the negative side of talking shit about ourselves.
Yeah. I loved what you said about like it's an outcome of all of this other work we do. Like that's so true. When we can just focus on like enjoyment of life and like doing and being devoted to being like our healthiest self possible, mind, body, soul, right? It's like the natural side effect of that. It might be to lose weight, or it might be to have clear skin, or it might be to just enjoy literal life more. Right? And so like it focusing on how can I just be present and be like in acceptance and dare I say happy with where I am
Yeah.
right now. And then let that be a natural side effect of living for me and being devoted. And, sometimes I don't feel like doing this thing, but I'm devoted to this journey. And I think also, you know, I work with people with, activate your magic. You mentioned I work with people to like find purpose, create purpose in their life, and like having goals, having, transformations we're working towards, that does create purpose in our life. And when we have a why in our life. And so it is okay for us to have like, ooh, I want my hourglass figure to be, like even more pronounced like that. And then but when we can enjoy that transformation and it can bring purpose into our life rather than it's like it, I love kind of, being in like a little competition with myself. How good can it get? How good can this feel? And
Yeah,
when we can get into that
exactly.
playful energy rather than a like punishing ourselves for not being a certain weight or not being a certain shape or all of these things, gosh, look at that, we're enjoying life again.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah.
we're reaching our goals. I think it's so interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking about how crazy it is, like women's bodies, especially the trends that happen. And it's like, we all have these beautiful, unique shapes. And then if you happen to be trending at a certain point in time, good for you. But then we all feel this pressure of like, oh, now this super skinny is in, so I better lose all the weight. Oh, now being thick is in, I better, gain this
Yeah.
weight and whatever. And it's just like, it's absolutely bananas. We're never allowed to just be our shape and that be like the vibe. If we look at like well, not magazines anymore, I guess, just social media, me aging myself, but I think back to like the 90s when all the supermodels and then in movies, and it was like there was these things about like you didn't want to have an ass. It was like
Yeah. Mhm.
everyone was supposed to be super skinny, and now everyone wants a bigger butt. And it's just so crazy to me. I'm like, so which is it? What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
It's so bananas. And it's laughable when you think about it, but how much pressure that puts on ourselves to like fit into these crazy boxes where it's like our bodies are our bodies and they're all
Yes.
different. And I mean, if we're someone that, we're thinking about men perceiving us, men are like hot lady. They don't care about these
Yeah.
specific. They don't notice
Hot
these little
lady.
tiny like I have this cellulite here or I have this extra roll here. They don't know. They don't see it
Yeah.
99% of the time, right? Like but we're listening to these media outlets that are determining these things, and it's just, and the men that abide by those things are not the kind of men we want in our life anyways. for
Yes,
our
exactly.
for our girlies that are interested in men. I know that's not everyone, but it's just kind of laughable. Although this has such a like serious and detrimental sometimes effect on our mindset and our view of ourself. It's so fascinating, but also infuriating
Yeah.
and stuff. It's just like
Yes.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's just like bodies that we're in a little bit more. How can we
Mm-hmm.
treat it nicely, and just not the way that you're
Yeah.
talking to it, but like the way that you're feeding it, the way that you're moving to, and doing it in ways you enjoy. And so that's really and that's what I'm rebelling against. It's just like more, let's bring more of
Yeah.
that, because our bodies deserve to be treated right. Like we deserve to be treated, like we deserve to treat ourselves like the right way,
Mm-hmm.
and to treat ourselves in loving and compassionate ways as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love, you call yourself the joyful health coach at times. And one, if you've ever met Jackie, she is a ball of sunshine. She has literal sunshine in a human body. Like she
Yes.
if you're watching the video of this, you can see it in her smile. I know you're nodding your head right now. But I love that because it's like, yeah, how do we just make the human experience more joyful? Like I think that's our purpose is it's not to brush aside the, they're not negative or bad emotions, but the unpleasant emotions, we'll put it that way. How do we, it's not about not experiencing those things, but why wouldn't we want to spend more of our time loving ourselves, accepting ourselves,
Hmm.
experiencing joy, all of these things? And like, I think that ultimately, my little motto is my purpose in life is to be hot and have fun. And that's all a mindset, like being hot, that has nothing to do with how others perceive me. It's feeling hot.
Hmm. Yes,
And I feel
that's
hot when
exactly.
I, take care of my body, which makes my skin clear, which makes me have more energy, all of the things. So, I love that, bringing joy into it.
Yeah,
I was also
exactly.
thinking about too, like this in a couple episodes ago, Jessica and I were talking about this sort of like you're damned if you do and you damned if you don't sort of idea with society, and like thinking about celebrities that embraced their curves, became a sort of like head of a movement. And then if they lost weight, then people were upset and they were like, well, now you're telling us you know, it's you wanted to lose weight. So now you're telling us this, that it's, we should want to lose weight. It's like, can you just like let them be happy and be proud of themselves? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
or, someone that I think about comments Lizzo get about,
Hmm.
being unhealthy, all of the things. And I'm like, have you seen that woman perform? She's
Yes.
dancing, she's playing the fucking flute and singing. I'm like, Lizzo is much more in shape than I am.
Yes, yes, she is.
It's just like
Yes.
you gotta just embrace who you are, where you're at, do the best you can for you, and kind of laugh off some of that stuff because it's just like you're never gonna make everyone happy. You're never gonna be perceived in the way you want to be by everybody. Like it's crazy out here.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that's why even that, like, that's why I started following Lizzo, and I do make it very intentional to follow more women who are just embracing their bodies no matter where they are or where they're at, right? And I think Lizzo was one of like the ones where a celebrity who like showed that of just like, I am healthy. Like you can see me running around this stage for like 2-3 hours. Like I am moving my body, and she is somebody who, um, I mean, she has money. She has money, and people can make food for her. Like, but she at that point, like I feel like she's eating nutritiously too, of like. And
Hmm.
being able to balance those foods of like being like balancing like foods that are less nutritious with foods that are more nutritious, and like getting it all together. But yeah, that was like one of the celebrities that I really talk about a lot with not only just like friends but family too, of being like, hey, people are in bigger bodies and they are still healthy. And
Hmm.
it's just like we can't judge health by how somebody looks. And I think that that's what people
Yeah.
get wrong so much of like, yeah, they might be in a bigger body, but you don't know their health status. Like you don't know what they're doing, and you don't know how they're moving as
Yeah.
well. And so I feel like that's one mindset that I've been what's it called, shifting to, of just being like, yeah, you're right. Like there's people that are so like they're putting in the work. Like you might not see it, but they are putting in work. Um, so, and I think we just need to be open minded about that, instead of just like being like, oh, they might not be moving their bodies enough or eating the better or nutritiously or anything like that.
Yeah. It's like, let's just all stay in our own lane and do the best for ourselves when it comes
Yeah,
to this.
that's
And I know
exactly
everyone
it.
here listening isn't the kind of, we're not out here like judging and shaming celebrities on these
Yeah.
kinds of things, but I think, um, it's human and normal to be self-conscious, feel a fear of judgment, or, just a fear of being perceived, being visible. Um, whether that's like going to the gym when you haven't been in a long time, or you've never been, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I feel like people
Yeah.
are looking at me and they know. Like I've had that experience in college when I started going to the gym. I was like, I don't know what to do at the gym. I grew up dancing. That was my exercise. I'm like, I got to walk on this treadmill. And like, everyone here knows I'm a newbie and like doesn't know what I'm doing.
I know.
But
Oh no.
I'm like, I guess I'll just like live life a little bit over. Less social media and like YouTube nowadays though. Now you can just learn everything
Yes, that
everywhere.
is
I love
another
YouTube
thing. Yes.
University.
Yes. I feel like with workouts, I think you can like go on YouTube. I think that's one place that you can go and be like, let me just find a workout from here. Like there's so many good fitness instructors online as well from YouTube, and that have good placement of like, what workouts to do, like how, like if it's just dumbbell workouts, like do dumbbell workouts, and like do
Hmm.
that for strength training. Because it's, yes, going to a gym is a good thing, but if you're not at the level of going to the gym, and I've had clients too of just like the gym makes me feel anxious, it's okay to start very simple of like being at home and doing home workouts and getting familiarized with how to use weights and how to do it properly at home, so that when you do go to the gym, it becomes less anxious. Like you become less anxious about it. Like you're just a little bit more
Yeah.
confident. Like, yeah, it's going to take some time of like being in a certain area. But over time, you're going to get the confidence of, I can do this weight. I can perform this exercise. And then, just get more confident, progressively, better at it over time.
Hmm. Yeah, I think just that willingness to be a beginner is a really,
Mm-hmm.
really important like trait to have. Like I think like when we're kids, we don't give a fuck. We're new at everything. The whole world, we're like, wow, new, new, new. Like, let me try this. Nope, not for me. And then we become an adult and we're like, I have to be good at something immediately because I'm an adult. And it's like so crazy. I'm like, no, we're allowed to be beginners. We're allowed to like, you know, not be good at something. We're allowed to look silly. We're allowed to mess up. Like, so whether it's like yoga or going to the gym or whatever, like we're allowed to suck at it. We're
Yeah,
allowed to be
exactly.
figuring it
Yeah, we
out.
are. Yeah.
So we covered like some nutrition tips, we covered some mindset tips. for somebody that might be really like fitness averse, they're like, fitness gives me the ick. But I know I should move my body more. Oh, where would you recommend they start? If I'm your client, I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I know I should. Jackie, what can I do? I'm not going to the gym. Where should I start? How can I get the most bang for my buck and have the most fun?
That's the part right there. It's just like, what's actually gonna like help you have fun with something, like, right? I wouldn't advise for a client to like start going heavy weights when like they've never picked up something, or like they just, yeah, they haven't done it. Like I wouldn't suggest, I don't know, like running to somebody who doesn't like running. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like figuring out like, what have you done previously? Like, what are some ways that you have enjoyed movement? Like, has yoga been something for you where you go to yoga and like you're really in love with like how you're moving and how flexible your body can be? You know, is Pilates a thing for you, like to get into as well? And it's not only just like, okay, like if you really don't know, if you're really fitness adverse, it's like, okay, well, where can we start exploring? Like, what's something that you've seen
Hmm.
on like TikTok or IG, and you're like, oh, I like that. That looks like a really fun movement. Like, you know, go to Zumba if you want to go to Zumba, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how can we start with somebody, like with the baby steps of like what's actually going to work for somebody? Like right now, I have a client who like was going to the gym, but she really has a busy schedule, and by the time she gets home, she's like really just tired. But one thing that she brought up to me was like, oh, I was watching something like one of the reels on Instagram, and I saw this girl who, you know, bought like one of those walking treadmills, like the ones you put under a desk, and she put it like
Mm.
in the middle of like her living room, or like her bedroom. She put candles on, she put like made it cozy, and she calls it like her cozy walks. And like it became a whole vibe.
Oh,
Like
I
it was
love
like, well,
that.
the way she was describing it, it was like a whole vibe of just like, oh, I'm just walking with like my water bottle with some candles, maybe a little Netflix movie. And she was just like, oh,
Hmm.
that seems like a great idea. And I was just like, why don't you do that? Like that would be such a good
Yeah.
thing, because what I've been working on with her is building consistency with exercising. Because sometimes when we build consistency, we need to build that trust in ourselves that we're going to do it. And so when we build that trust of like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to get this shit done, then that makes you want to do it even more. And so with this idea of like, if this is going to help you add more movement, do a little bit more walking, in the days that you can't even make it to the gym, like this would be such a great addition. So she's like now researching some walking pads and like, you know, putting something out there and making it cozy for her, making something that's enjoyable for her to be able to move her
Yes.
body.
I literally see those walking pads and I'm like, that will be like my first purchase when I get like a home again and I'm not a nomad anymore.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm like I just imagine myself, I'm like walking, watching Love Island, Boo's next to me. She should get one too because she's fat, like my chunky little
Yeah.
Boo girl.
She needs some walking.
She needs to do. I'll build a little tree in front of her. And I'm just like, me and Boo, who like two license watching Love Island. I'm like obsessed with those. I'm like, oh, I want one, but obviously can't travel with that. And I have a beach nearby. I can walk at every day, all that.
Of
But
course.
I love that so much. I know like when I oh gosh, I don't know, was it like 2021 or the years they meld together, but it was like New Year's, and I was like, this is the year I get super fit, and I was like, I love taking classes probably because of my dance background, so I got class pass. Class pass is so awesome if you have no idea what kind of workouts you like and you're trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
something that you'll like actually enjoy and go to. And I knew I liked yoga, but I wanted to try other things, and like I had so much fun, and then that's how I found a studio to go to
That's
them, and it was
right.
workouts that I had never done anything like that before. It was like lightweight and it was like dancey and it was perfect for me. So I can't recommend that enough. Whenever I bring stuff up, I'm like, this episode, I wish sponsored by ClassPass.
Class pass.
But it was awesome to just I tried all these things. Some things I like it's so funny. I was a classical ballet dancer for like 15 years. And so I'm like, oh, these bar workouts. I'm sure I'll love that. Fucking hate bar workouts. I watch the clock in those workouts. I'm like, no, I hate this.
I need to get out.
And so I was like, oh, not for me, not going back to a bar class. I thought that was going to be the love of my life. Nope. On to the next one. So I love ClassPass for that. Like, you can just try a bunch of different things and then you find something you love. And then it was like, oh, I can't wait to go to class. Even though I thought I was the
Hmm.
kind of person that doesn't like working out, I can't wait. I can't wait to go. So it's in us.
Hmm.
It's so much of our mindset. But I love that.
It
Cozy
is.
walks.
Yeah, cozy walks. Yeah, and it's just more of like the what fitness modality do you really connect with, right? And it's just like even that, it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
exploration, and that's one thing that people need to do is like, how do I explore more movement? I mean, because that's how I really was able to find like lifting is I love lifting. I love getting stronger. The idea of doing that like makes me want to go even more. I love group fitness classes, so I found F45 for like yeah, the F45. And so it's just being able to like get out of that comfort zone of like, okay, I don't know, I might not be good at it, and actually trying it out and then seeing
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I actually really enjoy it. Or you find out you really hate it and you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's not for me.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
too, the as someone who has struggled with social anxiety my entire life, like, and really struggles to go to a new place the first time, and then I'm fine. Like, doing that class pass and just it was such a good exercise in getting outside of my comfort zone, walking into a new studio constantly for like a month, trying all these different classes. Like, it just gave me like a confidence of like not just around like fitness, but just general life where I was like, oh, and now I travel to new countries by myself. But it
Yeah.
started with like, I used to not be able to walk into a new workout studio to a group class by myself. That was so scary to me. So, it's, I just always reflect on like how interconnected all of these things are. Like, our fitness journeys can be a really big part of us getting the courage and the self-confidence to
Hmm.
like pursue other types of dreams in our life. Like, it all works together. When we feel good in our bodies, then we are like braver and more courageous in other ways too, because we've anchored into a confidence in this area of our life, and like that overflows into every area.
Yeah, that's it's just funny you say that because there's actually like a psychology term. It's like the spillover effect. Like once you're doing so
Mm,
well in one area, it's more of motivation. Like once you have like all this motivation from one area, it starts to spill over into other areas too.
yeah.
And so yeah, it's like you're doing so well in one thing, and you're like, oh, I can keep going. I can keep going and going.
But by like, I really, oh, but I did it. I did something, the thing I said I was going to do. And then I'm more likely to go on my hot girl walk later. And I'm more likely to,
Yeah.
be more creative when I'm creating content. And it all trickles down. So it's like from the start of our day, like, how can we just sort of initiate? Maybe it is going on a walk first thing in the morning, or going to a fitness class, or just eating a nutritious breakfast. That makes me feel a sense of accomplishment. It instills a
Yes.
confidence in me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I did something good today.
Yes.
So I can do more good things today too. If I got that done, if I meditated and ate breakfast, wow, anything, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. I have no idea how long we've been talking. I don't have a timer.
It
Oh,
looks
it's
like an
already been an hour. Oh
hour.
my goodness.
It's,
Oh my goodness.
look at us.
Jackie, tell us more about I want to know more about, because you've kind of like solidified your brand more recently, and you
Mm-hmm.
have launched this Thick Baddie Circle. So tell us more about this, because I'm sure there's people on the edge of their seats like, how do I talk to Jackie more? How do I connect with her more? This all sounds good. I want to be a thick baddie. Tell me about the thick baddie mindset. What it's
Yeah.
all about.
Oh, okay. I love that I came up with this. Like this, the thick baddie concept. It's been something. It's the best thing that's come out of my brain. I think the reason why I wanted to do this was because, or I created this was because I consider myself a thick baddie in the sense of like being a thick girly. I have always been a thick girly, even like as I was growing up, and before it was something that was like seen as bad, like being thick, being bigger was seen as bad. But now we're getting to a
Mhm.
place where, thick is okay. We're good now. But I wanted it to
Yeah.
be more of an inclusive thing as well. Like anybody can be a thick baddie. You can be a thick baddie if you wanted to be. And it's not just about your size is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a state of mind. State of
Yeah.
mind. But it's the idea of allowing women to embrace their bodies where they're at. Like you are a thick body because it's where you're at with your body. We're embracing our bodies more. We're loving on our bodies more, no matter the shape, no matter the size, no matter what the scale says. So you're always going to be a thick baddie. And so I went ahead and I've created this kind of community now. It's called the Thick Baddie Circle. And so we're meeting every other week, so like twice a month. Yeah, just twice a month. And so what this space is for other women to come together, to connect, to inspire, to motivate each other with their nutrition and fitness journeys, with embracing their bodies, to learn more about how they can bring more nutrition into their lives, how they can bring more movement into their lives too. And so I really wanted a space where I can, it wasn't just about me just saying things. I really love community engagement. I wanted to be able to listen to other women and have more of a discussion than just like being on social media, because with social media, it's always just, I feel like it's one-sided where I'm just like saying things, like people are sending me messages, but I really wanted to create a connection base with other women where you share your thoughts, your feelings, what other questions you have about your own nutrition journey as well, and kind of like demystify like what it takes to build the body that you want, build the thick, juicy, strong body
Yes.
that you really want.
Juicy.
Yes, so juicy.
My favorite word.
And so, yes, I've been using that too, because you are allowed to feel juicy and strong, and like it makes me feel so good, like to like say those words. And I want other women to feel
Yeah.
good saying those words as well, as they're going through their journeys too.
I love that. And I love what you said about like demystifying. Like, it's our brains are so good at overcomplicating stuff when we have this like should mentality. I should be healthier. I should be, more fit. I
Mm-hmm.
should. And so our brains go, that's really complicated. You don't have time to figure that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's exactly
Like
it.
our brains are on our side for better or worse. And that's why it's so important to bring this mindset piece into it. And I was so excited when I saw you launching this, because I've always seen in you someone that would be so good at holding a community space and like bringing people together. So I'm so excited to see, you growing and offering these new things, and I'm like, oh, so excited for everyone in your space. And yeah, I had something else I was gonna say, and it's leaving my brain now because I got excited about the word juicy.
It gets the people going.
I'm like, now I'm all like juiced up, but oh, I wanted to say, I love when you were talking about just women feeling good about, saying those words, thick, juicy, all of that. And I was thinking about how, you know, my body fluctuates a little bit, but when I do feel a little bit thicker, like how I used to have this mindset of, like, oh, I have to figure out how to get rid of this or whatever. And now I kind of like, I'm like always like touching my little tummy. And I'm like, oh, it's so cute. Like I, I have
Yes.
this image of like the Roman statues, like all of those statues that was beauty, of these like soft tummies and these rolls in the back, and I'm like, look at me looking like a whole ass Roman goddess. When
Yes.
I gain a little weight, so it's fun, and it's really powerful, and I mean the work you're doing is really really important. So thank you, Jackie, for doing this work, and thank you for
Thank
coming on
you.
and sharing your magic with us. Where do we find you? I'll put all the links in the show notes, but tell us with your voice, where do we find you? How do we connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Hello Gains. Helllo, and then gain spelled with a Z, not an S.
I love it. And I'll put the link to the Thick Baddies Circle there. Make sure you send Jackie a message and just tell her, your takeaway from
Yeah,
today's
please.
thing. But I love we're rebelling against what society tells us about our bodies. We're rebelling against feeling like we have to or should, and we are embracing feeling good and enjoying our health and fitness journeys. So thank you,
Yes.
Jackie. Any final words of wisdom you want to drop on us?
No, I think that it's all about, yes, enjoying the process, and I think that we sometimes forget that. So that's hard sometimes, of wanting to enjoy the process, because like you want to get to an outcome so badly. So I mean, that's always a tough thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a mindset thing too to work on. But another thing too that I wanted to drop, as well, as we are learning to embrace our bodies, that sometimes we might not feel the best in our bodies, and we might not want to embrace it. And I think one thing that I learned through social media too, or like somebody's profile that I came across, that it's okay not to love your body. It's okay just to say, I'm okay with my body right now. Like, and just say that, and
Mm-hmm.
not be like, oh, I love it. I like, you look fierce, like in the mirror. Because I want women to go away from the shit talking that you do for your body, and just more towards
Yeah.
neutral words of like,
Yeah.
I'm okay today. I feel okay. Or just being like, my body is good right now, or like, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
keep like just going back to. And at some point you may be able to love it a little bit more, but I just want to say that it's okay just to be okay. And that's it.
Yeah. That's so important. I think that, yeah, it's we're not going to be in bliss and total acceptance even the majority of the time, probably. Like the goal really is neutrality. And like I think that ties in neatly to like, letting go of this toxic positivity. Like we don't have to be grateful for something if we're not grateful for it. We can't bullshit ourselves if we don't love
Yeah.
something about ourselves. We don't have to sit there and be like, no, I love it. Like we can't bullshit ourselves. And so, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I'm willing to believe it's possible for me to accept my body more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to go on this journey. I don't feel like this right now, but yeah, it's like we can't bullshit ourselves. So find the things we can be grateful for. An airplane going overhead. It's so loud. I don't know if you can hear it, but
I
yeah,
can
like finding
barely
the
hear
things we
it.
okay. I'm like, oh god, it's so loud to me. It's distracting. Yeah, it's like, what can I find that I am in genuine gratitude and acceptance of for myself, and then the rest of it, let's just get an energy of I'm willing to believe that this is possible for me. I'm willing to believe I could be a fitness girly, but I don't believe that right now. And that's total bullshit to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
For all of the things. So I think, yeah, that's a beautiful closing note. It's like, let's just all try to be less hard on ourselves and tip the scale to acceptance and love more of the time and hang out more in that neutral zone and make this
Yeah.
journey as fun as possible. I love that. Yay. Well, thank you
Yay.
so much, Jackie. Thank you, Rebel Witches, for tuning in. Make sure you go follow Jackie, join her Thick Baddie Circle, and we'll see you next week. Bye.